From the Casey State Bank Digital First Studio at WTWO, this is the Goin to the Hoop podcast. Sponsored by Terre Haute Chevrolet, Indiana State University, and Kirshner Building Centers.
Welcome into our very first Goin to the Hoop podcast. It is 2023. We're excited to talk some high school basketball with Nicole Cristina. I'm Graham Pugh. Nicole, we've had a lot of basketball so far this season. We're kind of getting the meat and potatoes, bread and butter of this high school basketball schedule.
We sure are. And the last time we sat in this podcast room, we were talking about the Classic, and that feels like, even though it was less than a month ago, it feels like it was forever ago. Right. I mean, so much has happened, and we really are into the thick of it now. So it's exciting, and we've got some really good matchups this week to talk about. I think we're going to start with maybe the biggest one.
The biggest game in the Valley on Friday. There's a lot of games this weekend, but of course, you got two ranked teams. Linton ranked number 1, North Davies ranked number 3. Linton traveling to North Davies. What a matchup that's going to be in Elnora on Friday night.
Oh, that's for sure. And I know that these teams are both, like you said, they're ranked. They're both strong. I think they're going to match up pretty well with each other. They're both pretty physical teams. They both know how to defend. So I think it's going to be, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it was a little lower scoring game because it'll be so heavily, there's going to be a lot of defense involved. But I think it's going to be fun. I think that you're going to see a lot of athleticism, and I can't wait to see some of the plays that, you bring back from that game for the show, because we got some playmakers on both of those teams.
Certainly our lead game in the show. The last two games have been decided by 7 points. North Davies got Linton last year by 6. They beat them a couple of years ago, 24-23. I think our director, Luke Knight, shot that game. But it's always fun. You want a game like this to help prepare you not just for the rest of the season, but for certainly March when sectionals get here. And you're going to get it between these two teams, 1 and 2A, 1 and 3A, as they get set for the stretch run.
Yeah, and I think for Linton, they just went down to the wire with Bloomfield last week, and they are a strong team. There's no doubt about that. But I think that they're going to really see what they're made of on Friday, and I think that'll be good for them. I think they're going to be tested athletically. And again, with those good matchups, you're not going to have anybody who's able to really, break away as much, I think, on Friday as you've seen in other games. And they didn't see that as much with Bloomfield either. You got Peter Combs. It's hard to go up against him too. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I think that North Davies is going to be home, but I think you're going to see a lot of Linton folks there. It's not that far of a drive. So it's going to be rocking, and it's going to be a great atmosphere.
North Davies with a big weekend. They get Linton Friday, and they get Bar Reeve on Saturday, as we're always Hagen strong here. Our thoughts and prayers with Hagen Knapp. You survived you almost got run over last week.
Yeah, Braden Walters. Yeah, that was, I was right behind the bench, or right behind the basket, I should say. I guess, shoot from the sides if you want to avoid it, but I got a great Joey Hart dunk because of it. Then Braden goes up for the layup, and it didn't end well for me, but I popped right back up. That's what you got to do.
Pop back up. Hey, at least you didn't say the wrong team won on air like I did. Lagodi took care of Bar Reeve. We know that. Lagodi has a big one with Bloomfield this week, too. Think about Bloomfield. You saw them last week. Bloomfield they have Eastern Green Friday, and then Lagodi on Saturday. It's a big weekend for the Cards as well. Like you said, they were just so close against Linton last week.
They were, and I can't wait to see what they continue to do throughout the season, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're covering them deep into March because, they have a lot of strength. You see some of their, shorter players, their smaller guys are really good shooters. They have, of course, Peter Combs down low. You can get that. That's almost a guaranteed bucket almost every time. And so they have a lot of strength, and it's fun to watch them because especially against Linton, Linton had a little bit more size on them with some of the guys, and some of their guards are a little taller, a little bigger, but, they were able to toe-to-toe with them. And when it mattered late in the game, they were right there in the stretch. And then, of course, it just came down to that last bucket, which was a good shot. It just didn't go in. And right there at the buzzer, couldn't ask for anything better on a Friday night. But I think Bloomfield is gonna be another one of those teams we're talking about for a while.
Have to wait and see what happens there. Coach Todd Wolfley of Terre Haute North is going to be our guest on this week's show. More from him coming up in just a little bit. But Terre Haute North, we got to touch on them. They won against South, won the shoe, and they got a big one against Northview earlier this week as well. They've won 6 straight.
Yeah, 6 straight. I know. I feel like some of that might come from Wolfley and his squad not being super happy with how the Classic ended. They're used to dominating there, and 5th place, nothing to hang your hat on there. But I think that they are really showing what they're made of now. And those younger guys, Wolfley hits on that. They're really finding their role. And I mean, against a pretty, as Wolfley says, capable South team at the Holman Center, you know both of those teams are going to come and show out there, and they were able to pull that off. Northview, a little younger team, having kind of a slower season because of that, but also always a strong competitor. And I think that Wolfley, he has a lot of good things to say about his guys, and that buying in mentality he's going to talk about in the next block. It really is big there, and you can tell that they really, you've got guys like, Jaden Waite, Damon Sturm, they already know, I know Damon's injured, but they already know that they're playing football, right, at the next level, but they're still bringing it. I'm sure Damon is still there, really dedicated and part of the team, and Jaden's there just giving it their all, and that reflects on the coach. It reflects on the entire, program as a whole, and really impressive to see them, picking up speed a little bit.
Can't wait to see what happens. North gets Clay City on Friday, then a big one with Southport on Saturday. Terre Haute South, not the finish they wanted last week against North. They go on to Evansville, one of those bragging rights for the Valley game. Terre Haute South on the road at Evansville North. We've seen South a couple times this season, certainly at the Classic as well. Yeah,
the Classic, I mean, they are scrappy. They are fun to watch. They have a lot of depth, too, and you can really pass it around anywhere, and it's going to be in good hands on South's team. So, again, Wolfley called them capable. I would definitely agree with that. They're able to beat anybody they want to, I think, as long as they all work cohesively together. And I think whenever they travel down to Evansville, like you said, those bragging rights are on the line. I've seen it in football, seen it in basketball. They like to go there to the, slightly bigger city and kind of show who's boss. So that'll be a cool matchup to see, too.
Not a ton of WIC doubleheaders this week. Sullivan has Friday night off. The boys do. The girls are in action against Cloverdale. West Vigo's not playing Friday, but you've got Northview hosting Indian Creek. Very tough task for both the boys and girls squads with Coach Byram and Coach Keys.
Yeah, and both of those guys really know how to lead a program. I think that, like we touched on Byram, his guys are just kind of young this year. And he said that going into it, that it was going to be a year where he lost a couple of key guys. He obviously has great leaders, kids like Drew Cook, who are always, showing out. But I think that he's finding his way with some of the younger guys. And I think that seeing Indian Creek, it's going to be an interesting matchup. A home game, though. So that always, I think, plays a factor. And Northview's always good to show out. And the girls, they've got quite the opponent in Indian Creek, too.
That they do. We'll have to have highlights of that, of course, coming up Friday, going to the Hoop at 11. I want to go down south for a second just to pick your brain. It's Vincennes, Lincoln, and South Knox. A rivalry game. These two always get together. It'll be fun to see what happens with Vincennes, Lincoln, and South Knox. South Knox has played some good basketball. Their coach has been at the Classic, scouting ahead. What do you think of the Alice's? They have Coach Dave Mahern kind of building his program up in the first year, but we've got Lincoln and South Knox, a fun rivalry match.
Yeah, and I always love going down to Vincennes and Knox County for games because those, there's those smaller schools, they're always packed, and they're both some scrappy teams too, and we've seen both of them really coming into their own. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I think that you're going to see a lot of, I don't know. I think that when it comes to these smaller teams, they do really have a lot of discipline that they have to kind of get molded and stuff. You're not coming from these big, huge programs and stuff, but that's where you get these players who they really stand out, and I think you see those on both of those squads. But it's always a great environment down in Knox County. There's the community, the community comes out. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, and I love all of the courts down there and all the arenas. It's really fun to see.
Speaking of that, the Hatchet House, Washington's home on Friday against Princeton. A fun little matchup there. So we'll see a lot of big games down south Friday night as well. Shaq and Mac WRV. Can't wait to see what happens on Going to the Hoop Friday at 11 on WTWO. We don't have many Illinois games Friday because the boys' LIC tourney will start on Saturday. We saw KZ Westfield at the Classic. They've been on an impressive run. They got a big one against Marshall last week. But KZ and Robinson, two of the teams in Illinois, that'll be in action Saturday in the LIC tourney.
Oh, yeah, and Robinson, you can never say enough about Robinson and Mac Thompson and the things that they're doing over there. Really impressive. Obviously, they were the consolation winners at the Classic and got to talk to them. Just really proud to come over to Indiana for the Classic and go back with some bragging rights on the consolation side of the bracket. And they're a lot of fun to watch. And KZ Westfield, they've got that energy that you see, from the head coach down. So, I think when we catch them, we'll probably talk about them next week on the podcast after we see them in action on Saturday. So
can't wait to see what happens. The boys LIC tourney, a lot of high school basketball. Hey, we are just getting rolling. Going to the end zone. Going to the Hoop podcast, I should say. Head coach Todd Wolfley of the Terre Haute North Patriots joins us right after a look at the matchups.
here are this week's matchups. Kirshner Building Center is proud to support local sports in the Wabash Valley.
Welcome back to our Going to the Hoop podcast, our very first one of 2023. He is the head basketball coach of the Terre Haute North Patriots, who have won 6 in a row. Head coach Todd Wolfley. Coach Wolfley, thanks for stopping by. Happy to have you on this week's show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're fresh off a win against rival Terre Haute South, fresh off a win against Northview. You got a big game coming up on Friday with Clay City. This is kind of the bread and butter, meat and potatoes of the high school basketball schedule. Still a few big weeks ahead before we get to sectionals, but this is a special time of the year for you and your squad.
It is. We're preparing, to get closer to the state tournament. We have 3 games this week, very difficult games, and busy week for us on the north side, and we just hope our guys continue to get better. We've been playing well as late. As you know, we got off to a slow start this year. Really like our group. Our guys are coming together. The chemistry's good. The roles are defined, and playing some good basketball right now. Hopefully that continues for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we talked to you before the Classic at the Classic Draw, and you mentioned it was going to have to be some younger kids that were stepping in, a next man up mentality, and they've clearly found those roles, as you said. You know, the Classic obviously getting 5th place, not bad at all. It's a very competitive thing. I know you're probably disappointed, but how do you feel like some of those younger guys have really found themselves on the team and stepped up, especially since the Classic, and really getting that kind of eye-widening experience?
Yeah, well, going into this season, we lost 3 of really good players, and they were excellent leaders. Not only good basketball players, but from a leadership standpoint. And then Damon Sturm suffered a football injury. So that basically took 3 of our starters out from last year's team, who was very successful. So the roles and responsibilities, although we had a lot of kids back, they really changed. And now, as you mentioned, I think we're assuming those responsibilities, and guys are really comfortable in their roles. It takes a total team effort. We don't have one superstar that can go out and get 25, 30 points a night like some of the teams in the Wabash Valley, but I think we have a lot of good high school basketball players that are willing to buy in. Buying in is very important. They work hard every day, buying into the defensive end on nights where we don't score a lot of points, and just finding a way to win, and winning being important in the first and foremost.
You have some important seniors as well. They played a big role last year. You guys won a sectional. Some of them are seniors certainly now this year. Touch on your seniors. I know every coach always finds this senior group is a special group. You have a lot of special seniors on this year's team.
We do.
As well.
We have 9, so that's a lot. It's great for the senior group. It's a good problem to have. Now, not for the head coach, because finding playing time sometimes is difficult for all those kids. But they've been around our program for a long time. They know what it takes to win. They've been good role models for our younger kids, too. We have a good young group, a JV group, that we hope can step into those roles next year. But it's a special group. I think they were very excited the other night to have the shoe on the north side for all 4 years that they were in high school. We didn't get accomplished what they wanted to do in the Classic, but I think that they are capable of playing well in the tournament, and hopefully we can make a run in March and extend their careers and extend our season.
That would be sweet for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned buy-in. What does that look like? We know you're a really dedicated coach. We know that you're really into studying and looking into the opponents. And what does that look like for your players? And what does that look like in practice and in meetings, that buy-in mentality?
Well, I think that we tell our kids that we try to run our program like a small college program, and we are going to treat them well. We're going to feed them well. We're going to make sure that they have nice uniforms. And as a coaching staff, we're going to take care of them. But it's a 50-50. They have to meet us halfway, and we expect a lot out of them. And I tell their parents or their guardians the same thing. And if you come to Terre Haute North, first and foremost, you're going to have to take care of yourself academically. You're going to have to be good out in our community. And if you're going to wear something that says Terre Haute North basketball on it, you're going to represent our program in the right way. So life lessons, building character is first and foremost. And then if you're going to play for us, you're going to have to guard. I'm very big on us all wearing a team shoe. Some people gone away from that, but looking the same and just really going out there as one cohesive unit. We come from different backgrounds. Everyone does. They have different upbringings, but I think that one thing they will always remember are being teammates and being Terre Haute North Patriots. So if they see a guy 20 years from now who's moved to Seattle or another part of the country when they come back for the holidays, I want them to be able to go up to that person, if it's a gas station or restaurant or wherever, and have something in common, because the teammate and the bonds that you create through athletics are very special.
20 years from now, you could still be coaching Terre Haute North, or 30 years from now, Coach. You never know.
I definitely won't. my hair's getting a little rough as it is, and I definitely won't have any by then. But, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to coach at Terre Haute North. I graduated from Terre Haute North, and I haven't scored a point since became the coach. It takes a huge support system from your assistant coaches, administration, and just to have really good players. And we've had really solid players during my time at Terre Haute North, and I'm very thankful for them and their families and just everyone that's involved in our program.
You're a guy that seems like you love the grind too. It's a grind as a coach because you got travel, long nights on a bus, long days practice. Your assistant coaches, I know, love that grind too. But that's what kind of makes it special when you get those wins and are able to, to beat your rival at the Holman Center and stuff like that. If you don't love the grind, coaching's probably not for you.
That's true. And, I think that we need to get more young people into the coaching profession, but they don't realize everything that goes into it in order to be successful. And you got to put in time in the off season. The kids put in so much time in the off season as well, even our multi-sport athletes. And, it takes a lot of commitment from a lot of people, and the assistant coaches are so important because a lot of times they're on the road scouting and just putting a lot of time into our opponents. We play a lot of man-to-man defense, so if you're going to do that, you need to know what the opponents are going to run as well. It's not where you're out there trapping and playing a zone and can cover up some of those things. So, and we feel like we can steal some possessions on out-of-bounds underplays. That could be 4 or 6 points and a difference in a ball game. So just little things like that. It takes a lot of commitment, and it's a great profession. I obviously love it. I do love the grind. I enjoy that. But it's so rewarding when you see kids that are successful and as a staff what they've put into it that week preparing for a big game or a conference game or a tournament game, and to see kids in that locker room. There's nothing like being around a team after they've won a big game. I mean, it still gives me chills to this day, just the competitive spirit that they have and what it takes, and there's nothing better than winning on the road either. So hopefully we can do that Saturday night in a big conference game at Southport.
Yeah, I mean, you've done both this year. You got your 200th win at Plainfield, right?
Yeah.
And then, but also, just less than a year ago, you guys won a sectional on your home floor. So that's two right away that I think of special moments for being a Patriot.
Yeah, very special, considering we had a long sectional drought. And I just, the grind, as you mentioned, what it took to get there, to get to that point for the opportunity, and to see the kids in our program that worked so hard. That senior group, I've basically been around them since they've been in about the second grade. So I watched them grow up, and it does make me older, yeah. And being around to win that many games as a team, that makes me a lot older and feel a little bit older. So I'm definitely feeling the grind now, but it's just so rewarding. And I think coaches get into this education and coaching profession to see kids be successful. And that's what we're doing at Terre Haute North, using as athletics to teach life lessons.
Yeah. Grant mentioned bread and butter is what we're kind of right in right now. But as you look to the rest of the season and wanting to get deep into March, what are going to be some of the keys for Terre Haute North for us to be covering you guys deep into the postseason?
Well, we hope you're there.
Yeah,
for sure. And you two do an excellent job, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and give you a plug. But
well, thank you.
We're paying him for this.
Yeah, we tune in every Friday night, and we like watching a little bit more when we win, but
absolutely,
just do a great job. And I think the kids in our community are very fortunate to have people like you who cover them, and they should be grateful. And I talk to my players about that all the time because it's something special, and it doesn't happen everywhere. But you do a great job. And for us to be successful and make a deep run, we're going to have to continue to play defense and come together and grind it out every night and work hard. We're in the dog days of the season now. Right. And some people start to look forward to the end of the year, play golf, getting into spring sports, but I love tournament time, and hopefully with 9 seniors, we'll be able to stay focused, and they're still hungry to go back. We have a very difficult sectional, a huge game on Saturday night at Southport because we are 3-0 right now in the conference, and for the first time in the history since we've been in Conference Indiana, we have an opportunity to share the conference title, and I think that's not only big for Terre Haute North, but for our city of Terre Haute. To go out there and show that we can compete with some of the bigger schools in the state and some really talented players that they have. And Brownsburg is in our sectional. They're 14-1 right now, ranked 3rd in the state. Plainfield's another excellent team, and Terre Haute South's obviously very capable. And, so it's just going to be tough. But I think we have a group of guys that can get the job done.
Look forward to that. Now we want to pick your brain a little. We know about the basketball side. What about some things outside of basketball? But first, is there You have a game day routine. You haven't been around as long as you have, and probably don't have a game day routine. Tell me one or two things that you like that you want to do on game days. Maybe not the same meal. We certainly always enjoy seeing your wife around in the games too. Everyone knows it's a family thing. So let's pick your brain a little bit on what a game day is like for you, Coach.
Well, I think all my players, if you had them sitting here, would tell you that I'm just a tad bit OCD. So doing the same game day ritual is pretty much what we do. If we play on a Friday night, we have walkthrough at 6:45 in the morning. We go over our opponent's out of bounds plays and maybe the sets that they're going to run that night or what we feel they're going to do, and we work on those for a couple days leading up to the Friday game. But the parents always provide breakfast for our guys. The reason I do that is to make sure that they all get to school safely, first of all, and that they all eat together, because it's very important in today's world with the phones and technology that we get our student athletes to talk to each other. So we have them sit down meal, and then they'll go through their academic day and pregame meal. One of the things that our guys will tell you is they get fed, and they get on me when I'll give them enough playing time, because they say they gain weight during the season because we feed them so much. But we'll get ready to go and just all travel. The seniors decide what they're going to wear on the road, whether they're going to dress up or going to wear our travel gear. It's just important to me that when we go into the gym, all their electronics go away, because usually the other team's in there shooting around before the junior varsity game. And it's important to me that they know that this is a business trip. We're Terre Haute North. No matter what you think of us, we're coming here to play, and you're going to be in for a tough battle that night. And then we play the game, and hopefully we have a nice bus ride home. If we're not successful that night, it's usually really quiet on that bus. But
sure,
the cheese wagons are great, but like you said, in January they get a little chilly on that bus. But when you win, it still feels a little warmer on there.
Oh yeah,
always.
That's for sure.
What about other things? Yeah, is there a certain specific song you want to listen to? Do you do music pregame, Coach? Do you?
I let our guys control that as long as it's
Sure.
clean and edited, because they probably wouldn't like the stuff that I would play.
Sure.
I'd get into some 80s
Well,
rock.
what would you play? Yeah,
I
so
would get
tell
into
us.
some 80s rock,
Okay.
some 90s rap. That's when music was music, you know what I
Right.
mean? And
They don't make them like they used to. It's true.
They don't. I mean, I know I'm showing my age here by saying they don't make them like they used to, but sometimes I sneak onto the Bluetooth, because we do play music in practice, because I think music encourages movement.
Oh, yeah.
It's a motivator. And during our shooting drills and stuff, I'll blast some music. And I sneak over there sometimes and hook up to the Bluetooth, but they always know, Coach Wolfley playing your music again? Get that stuff off here. It's terrible. So, I do a little bit of that, some music. And, we, as a coaching staff now, my athletic trainer, Jordan Watson, he's big into what we're wearing the certain night. So
Cool.
I've got my guys all kinds of stuff. Usually
Swag matters.
Yeah, swag is
does.
important.
It does.
Yeah.
So if we're dressing up, I know a lot of the college coaches, the NBA coaches are going away from the suit, but one of the reasons that I think that our staff should dress nice and dress together is because it shows the young people that it's a priority, that it matters, that high school basketball in Indiana still matters. It's different from the AAU circuit. They're going to be on TV maybe on Friday night. So it's important, and it also teaches them responsibility, work ethic, just all the things that we try to teach our young players.
One of those young guys, your son, who's now a freshman on the team, there's a new wrinkle and dynamic as well. But, I mean, he's certainly been raised around basketball. Both of your kids have their entire life. But what's that like now to have him as a freshman up and coming at North? as well?
It's different. I missed a lot of his games when he was growing up because of my job, and I hated that. I tried to make it to as many as I could, but now he's there every day. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a bad thing. He would probably tell you. But I let the assistant coaches do a lot of the coaching with him because they know what's expected of them. My assistant coaches, a lot of them have been with me a long time. So I try not to coach him any differently than the other guys, and we have some great upperclassmen that have taken him under their wing because he likes to be a little goofball sometimes. And as a freshman, I always say the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores. So I'm looking forward to that. But they've done a great job just teaching him the ways and like, hey, you better not do that because coach and your dad's going to get really mad. So he's good. It's been good. And we try to leave it there on the court and go home and talk about other things. And hopefully I can get him to engage in a little bit of conversation before he gets on his phone. And in theory, he says doing his homework. So we'll see.
Yeah,
but it's a good group of kids, just all of them. I'm very fortunate. The last 2 years especially, been a good group of kids. And they've been willing to sacrifice personal glory, maybe, not the 20-point game scores, for the betterment of the team. And that's all you can ask from kids, really, in order to be successful. So I think that they might not be first-team All-State basketball players when it's all said and done, but they're going to be successful in life.
That's certainly what you want. Other big games happening. I mean, you're always watching film, always watching opponents. Not going to put you on the spot too much, but there is a big game on Friday night, Linton, North Davies. You've already played North Davies this season. You've played Linton in seasons past. You know a lot, certainly, about the program that Coach Hart has built and Coach Dalrymple. Your thoughts as we get set, an outsider's perspective on a big North Davies-Linton show
I
on
would
Friday.
say you probably need to get there early, because I imagine that game's going to be pretty packed. Two really good high school basketball teams with very good players. I'll be interesting to see, what the matchups were going to be like, because I think they match up with each other very well. I hope the coaches let the kids play. If they're listening, don't hold the ball for 3 minutes, Linton. But
We haven't seen that at all.
No, never.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They would go back. I think both of them did, and they play possession by possession. So I don't expect an extremely high-scoring game, because both teams defend really well, but they both have some good players that are capable of putting up some numbers. So I think it's going to be a great game, and, I wish that I'll probably catch it and watch it after we're done playing as well. So.
Yeah, you can catch highlights on Going to the
Going to
Hoop
the
at
Hoop
11
Friday.
o'clock.
I'll definitely be watching that. We have a home game, so I'll be home in plenty of time to catch that.
After matching up with the Eels on Friday, then, like you said, a big one against Southport on Saturday. Best of luck this weekend.
Yeah, Clay City has a really nice team too.
Yeah.
For they're a 1A program, but they're having a great season. They're 11-4 and playing really well.
You guys play them every year, I feel like.
Coach
Which is
Ames
kind
does
of nice.
a really good job with his group, and then it's going to be kind of a different styles, because Saturday Southport is extremely long and very athletic. So, our guys, hopefully with a veteran team, we can adjust to the different styles of play and find a way to get some wins.
Good luck. Last question, true or false, Jim Irsay has or has not reached out to you about the Colts head coach opening?
He
I've
hasn't,
interviewed-
but 25 years ago, I worked security at the Colts' first training camp at Rose Holman.
Wow.
And they were trying to sign Edgerrin James, and kind of my claim to fame was the Colts had to practice one day at Memorial Stadium because the fields were too wet at Rose Holman. So they practiced at Memorial Stadium. Peyton Manning signed autographs after the practice, and the buses, they had Terre Haute City buses, they left the facility. So he didn't have a ride back to campus. I was working with another security guard, so I sat in the back of a Jeep. She drove, Peyton Manning was in the front, and the Jeep was open. So
That's a big
we
claim
would
to
go
fame,
from there,
Coach.
And to see the expression on people's face when they would turn and look at the stoplight, that's Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And it was so hot that day. He held his pads up with the football helmet and his pads in. All his sweat blew back in my face the entire way.
And
But
you
it was
were
like,
loving every second of it.
Hey,
Yeah.
dude, this is Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I said, hey, dude, quit blowing your sweat
Yeah.
back in my
Right.
face. So I just rocked it, and I tell that story. It just came up. But that was my claim to
great.
fame with
Yeah.
Indianapolis Colts. I'm a Colts fan. If they reach out, I might be like Jeff Saturday. I'll give it a chance. I might not
Yes,
be
the
very good at
return.
it, but why not give it a shot? I'll go in there and get the best I can.
Yeah, give it your best
You
shot.
got the in with Peyton, so
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Coach Wolfley, thanks for your time. Best of luck this weekend. You can follow North, of course, Friday night, Going to the Hoop. We are back with more Going to the Hoop podcast right after this.
Here are this week's matchups. Kirshner Building Center is proud to support local sports in the Wabash Valley.
Welcome back to our Going to the Hoop podcast. Big thanks to head coach Todd Wolfley of Taylor North Patriots. They have a busy weekend of basketball ahead for stopping by. Can't wait to have more coaches on our podcast upcoming in the future with Nicole Christine, Luke Knight, our director. I'm Graham Pugh. We've touched on high school basketball. We have to touch on college basketball. Fresh on our minds, of course, the ISU Sycamores have lost 3 tough games, no doubt, but another tough one coming up short against Bradley at Holman Center. They're now 6-3 and in second place in the Moval, Nicole.
Yeah, and I was at the game last week. You were you were at both, but last week it was so disheartening because, and I think you said the same thing last night. It's like they come out so strong and they look really good because they are a really good team and they are solid. And then it's like something, I don't know, in the second half kind of just fell apart a little bit. And then last night you see it again, only a 5-point lead at half.
Technical
which,
fouls playing a big factor
yeah,
as well.
maybe need to button up some stuff with that. I'm not going to act like I know,
No,
what
for
they need
sure.
to do with that, but I think maybe just kind of cleaning some stuff up. But they have so much talent on that team, and you can tell that they really enjoy playing together and that they are cohesive. So I think they just need to iron a few things out. Unfortunately, I think like you're right in the thick of it. You've got a lot of good MVC teams that are around you, and they're not going to be getting like freebies. They're not going to be getting easy games. And so I think it's great that they started out the way that they did, and, we're just in the lead for a long time there. Just seemed like their season was heading in a really great direction. I think it still can be a really solid season, but it's just, you can never, Missouri Valley football, Missouri Valley basketball, you can never go into any of those games thinking you've got it, because
No
a
nights off.
lot of solid opponents. And, what did you kind of notice last night when you were there that you think stood out as maybe something they could clean up a little?
Yeah, the technicals certainly stand out. Cam Henry and Voss with those. But also a technical was called on Bradley's coach, Ryan Wardle, as well. But yeah, you got to take care of that stuff because you don't want to give your opponent any momentum or any swing like that.
Right.
And yeah, it's just the second half of games, regarding of technicals or not. You can't let up, especially when it comes to conference play, because there's no nights off. And this is a new animal this year because they're playing 20 conference games. So they've got 9 down. The good thing is they still have 11 more to go.
Yeah.
But you can't let your foot off the gas as you're coming down the stretch.
Yeah,
well.
and you said they're heading
Murray
there.
State's good at home. They're at Murray on Saturday, which is certainly going to be a tough one. And they're at Drake on Tuesday, so a short rest. The Drake game here at home in Summer, arguably one of their best wins of the season. They nipped Drake, who was the preseason favorites. Now Drake's going to be out for revenge when they come, when ISU comes visiting next week.
Oh, yeah. And I think that, when we were talking about the technicals and some of those things, it's like, I think it's easy sometimes when you're in the moment to, I don't know, like think that something might be a bigger deal or whatever. And again, I'm not going to act like I know how to take care of that. I've never played college basketball, clearly. But, I just think that they've got a really good thing going for them. And I would hate to see something like that kind of get in the way. You hear chatter about it today on social media, and that's not what you want to see the day after a game, win or loss. You don't want that to be the focus. You want it to be more so about what happened in gameplay and not, between the whistles. And so I don't know. I really hope that they can continue to, right that ship and get on a good path. I think Schertz is just a great guy for this role, and I think he's been nothing but impressive so far. I just think that Missouri Valley play, it's a different beast.
Every night you gotta the Sycamores. You want to win every game, but if we could get a split with these 2 tough road games coming up, that would be huge for the Sycamores to win either at Murray State or at Drake. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Indiana Hoosiers got back in the win column finally against Wisconsin.
Gosh.
They got a big one upcoming with Illinois, certainly.
I know.
But other big ones are going to roll. Big Ten play is no different than any other conference league. It's tough week in and week out. The Hoosiers just trying to make it by without Johnson and Thompson right now.
Yeah, and I know that people are saying that Race is planning to be back, I think, early to mid-February. That'll be huge. They've talked a little bit about X coming back. Some people I've seen, starting to hint at when he might come back. I hate to really play into any of that, but you can feel their presence, their absence rather, and especially defensively. I mean, those are 2 of our best defenders. I think that Trace is doing what he does, and he really carried us on Saturday. There were some other players that obviously stepped up. We have depth, on the Hoosier squad as well. But man, as an alum, it's frustrating because you watch and you root for him, and it's something that you want to see year after year, and then you get some of those losses, and it's like it's easy to go down that hole. And the Big Ten, we talked about the MVC, but the Big Ten is just so many good teams there, and Purdue is just electric.
Do what they do, Coach Painter. They got a big one Monday on the holiday at Michigan State. Last second, Zach Edey making a case for Player of the Year, not just Big Ten Player of the Year, but Purdue getting it done right. Because the rankings don't really matter. Purdue is ranked number 3 this week. You don't want to be, it doesn't matter now. Yes, IU would like to be ranked. They'd like to have a couple more wins under their belt. But you just want to be peaking as you head towards conference tourney and March Madness.
Yeah, and I think that I was reading some things about things that Woodson said about, Trace talking to the team and these leaders really starting to hammer in on, hey, this is what we're going to need to do. And they know that. I mean, Trace is no stranger to these Big Ten teams, and the decision for him and other guys to stick around this season. Like, they're hungry to prove themselves. And so to see them, falter a little bit around the holidays, you just really do want to see it pick back up, because Purdue, they're not faltering. No. They're just steady, and
getting it done.
And that's a matchup that's on the horizon.
Can't wait for that
always
one.
thinking about that
maybe
one.
want to wait, but some people can't wait for that one. While we're talking about winning, how about Terry Morin and IU? She was here at Indiana State. She's certainly a friend for us here. The winningest coach all time in that IU women's program, and they just celebrated. She's getting it done over there.
Yeah, and she came into the program when I was at school there. So when I was working at the student paper and working in the sports department there, she came in with all this hype, and she has lived up to it. And those young women love playing for her, and I will say it's really refreshing to see, because I'm guilty of it. A lot of people are guilty of it, not showing up as much for the women's basketball team there in the past, but they had a record-breaking crowd on, I believe it was Sunday at their last home game, and people are really showing out for them, and it's great because IU is a basketball school, but right now it's like the women are the ones who have been carrying it the last few years, and it is thanks to Terry Morin, and she is just a really, really great addition to that program, and the winningest coach, IU history.
We'll have to see what she does. And, of course, shout out, to Coach Killinger and the ISU women. He's trying to turn his program around as well. They had a tough one. Anytime you're going to have tough in conference play last weekend at home, and then they're going to hit the Valley Road this weekend. Yeah. These are those dog days, we call it, of January, with conference play underway.
Yep. A lot of exciting season left. It's hard to believe.
Can't wait to see what happens. For Nicole Christine and Luke Knight, thanks for watching our Going to the Hoop podcast. We'll see you around at a basketball game this weekend. But join us next week for our Going to the Hoop podcast. We can't wait to see what happens next.